This episode is brought to you by Nana's Deli. Attention food lovers, have you been to Nana's Bistro yet? If not, you are missing out. Nana's Deli has just unveiled their newly renovated dine-in space and it's ready for you to enjoy. The updated menu has all your favorites plus a new star, Food Czar Flats, served with every salad, sandwich, or grill order. But let's not forget the classics that made Nana's famous. Their mouth-watering tuna, legendary sloppy joes, hearty soups, and that unbeatable pastrami sandwich. This is comfort food done right. Got a special occasion? Nana's Bistro is perfect for private events, birthdays, anniversaries, or just because. You name it, they'll make it unforgettable. Since 1981, Nana's has been a tradition, and they're still going strong. And if you're in Jersey City, you already know, Nana's is there too, bringing their signature flavors to your neighborhood. So what are you waiting for? Stop by Nana's, enjoy your favorites, and don't forget those Food Czar Flats. Nana's Deli, serving tradition, flavor, and love since 1981. Mention Food Czar Podcast to receive 10% off your next order. Go to nanasdeli.com for more information. Hey there, listeners. Here's a quick question. When was the last time you took a good look at your insurance policies? If you're unsure, don't worry. Beth Sultan at Strategic Insurance Agency has you covered. Strategic Insurance, right here in Livingston, has been helping people protect what matters most for over 25 years. Beth Sultan, a licensed property and casualty insurance broker, is ready to make sure your home, auto, or business is fully covered at the best price possible. The best part? Beth offers a free, no-pressure review of your current policies. All it takes is a quick chat and a couple of documents to ensure you've got the best coverage for your needs. So don't put it off. Call Beth Sultan today at 917-488-2523 or email her at bsultan@siapc.com. Let her and the team at Strategic Insurance put their 25 years of expertise to work for you. Strategic Insurance Agency, trusted in the community for over 2 decades.
This is Behind the Counter.
Beyond the counter.
With the Food Zone. Here's Heidi.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Counter with the Food Czar, which is me, Heidi Blum. And today we are sitting, I'm going to call him my brother from another mother? Is that what it's called? I am sitting with King Kaan, otherwise known, or really nobody knows him, as Kaan Erpanur. So I have Kaan here today because I thought this would be a really good episode to talk to Kaan and to educate the listeners out there as we roll into February, which is American Heart Month. And Kaan, who you will see a picture of him, I'm sure, on social media, is like a beast, shredded, and the healthiest looking, I want to say, I don't really curse on here, but, mother effer on the planet. And he used to train me, right? Personal trainer,
Yep.
Group fitness trainer.
Yep.
And surprisingly to me, and obviously to Kaan himself, he had a quadruple bypass.
Triple bypass.
Triple?
Yes.
Oh, just a triple.
Just
Slacker.
Not to brag. Or
Yeah,
anything.
a slacker. So welcome, Kaan.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today, and thank you for having me.
So the first thing I want to mention is that we are sitting at Forum Coffee in Livingston, a brand new space here in Livingston, and it's beautiful.
Looks really awesome.
We're sitting in what they call the parlor. So, but anyway, thank you for letting us use the space. So Kaan and I have known each other for, I would say
10 years, I think.
probably 10 years. And let's give the history of me and you, and then we're going to get into the journey, just so people understand our relationship and why we are like sitting here and able to talk to each other and sort of hopefully be natural with each other. But I found Kaan at a gym in Whippany many, many years ago when my youngest son was taking a American Ninja Warrior class. And while I was sitting watching my son take his class, out of the corner of my eye, and maybe my eardrums were piercing, was this young kid who was annihilating one of his clients in like boxing, and a workout. And for some reason, I said, I need to train with him, which was like, I don't know, that was crazy at the time, but I did.
Yeah.
And it was like a match made in heaven from that minute on.
It was a love-hate relationship from then on.
Pretty much so.
For you.
Pretty much so.
I loved every minute of it. You hated me a lot at the time.
So
but
Kaan, how old are you?
I am now 42 years old.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit
Okay.
in time because I think your health journey sort of goes along with, unfortunately, your heart disease that happened,
Yep.
right? So,
Yep.
okay, so growing up, I know your story. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your history, your health journey, and all
Yeah.
that?
So growing up, I had hereditary high cholesterol ever since I was a kid. I didn't really understand as I was growing up, like, I knew it was dangerous, but I felt that, once I understood how dangerous it was, if I was more proactive on it, that I would be able to control it. Because as I was getting older, I saw my grandmother go through heart surgeries, and so, but the old school, the foreigners, my grandparents, my parents are both foreigners, so.
And where are they from?
Turkey.
Yeah.
So they love eating, just whatever they want, essentially.
What's like a Turkish cuisine?
So like breakfast, like for breakfast, it would be like feta cheese with like, olives, with the olive oil.
Yeah, it's like a Mediterranean diet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mediterranean diet, which is still pretty good, but like,
Yeah.
they kind of like overdid it
Yeah,
sometimes.
of course.
So, when I saw my grandmother go through, heart surgeries, actually the person that did her first angioplasty was Dr. Oz when he was in Columbia Presbyterian in New
Wow.
York. Yeah. So just seeing what she went through, and I was kind of like an overweight kid at the time. And my primary doctor at that time had said, listen, like, my cholesterol was really high. And so he said I was like 4 times the risk of a heart attack than an 80-year-old man. And I didn't know about like nutrition, working out or anything. I was just a young kid being a kid, you
Right.
know? And so when I saw my grandmother go through that, I said, you know what? I want to avoid all this. And when the doctor told me that my risk factors, it really scared the hell out of me.
Right.
Into taking action and start going into my health and fitness journey.
So, if I recall correctly, you were like, were you a chubby kid? Like I feel
I was
like
a chubby kid.
Because I was a chubby kid. I mean, I say that I was Fat Monica.
Every time I watch Friends now with my wife,
I know.
It's like I'm watching Heidi Blum on TV.
But
literally.
but it's true. Like that's
Yeah.
how I associate myself. And I went on a health journey myself and became a personal trainer, and and just really got into fitness and just a lifestyle, not even diet, just a lifestyle. But I feel like that was the same for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was just to give you I wouldn't say I was like an obese kid. I was definitely a chubby kid. I was a size 38 waist in jeans at 16, 17, just to give you an idea,
baby.
which is pretty big.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you really, I mean, as a kid, you really don't, you're just being a kid, like I
Sure.
said, so you don't really understand, you're just trying to enjoy yourself with your friends, having pizza and all this stuff.
You don't understand longevity.
At that time, because you're just trying to enjoy, in your youth, you know what I
Right.
mean? So when the doctor told me that, it was kind of like almost like a bomb went off, and I was like, whoa, like when he said I think he said I was 4 times the risk of heart disease, heart attack than an 80-year-old man
Wow.
at like 17, 18.
Yeah.
It really like was like time out, stop, like what's going on?
Right.
So I knew I had to do something. I just didn't know what, because I wasn't into health and fitness. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know about really eating well at that time.
Right.
But I knew I had to make a change. And then seeing what my grandmother went through, I knew and I didn't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
I know I needed to make a change, and it had to be drastic.
So what was the first step in making the change?
Honestly, I hired a personal trainer, and believe it or not, my first personal trainer that I hired actually, I don't ever like talking bad about anybody. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I just felt that, I paid for a service, and I just felt like as a trainer that the care wasn't there.
Sure. Which happened, which we all know happens.
The care wasn't there, and kind of like, when I take it as like when you being a personal trainer now, when someone new comes to me, it's like, hey, I get to help change this person's life. I get to help create a good foundation for them and help them grow in their journey.
It's not just about the workout.
No,
Right.
it's you're impacting their life beyond the gym.
Correct.
You know, and that didn't really happen for me with my first trainer, believe it or not.
And that can set you back. That can, right? As a kid, you were probably like, I don't know, maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, 17, 18 years old, I was pretty discouraged
Yeah.
at that point. I was frustrated that and look,
It's like you're ready to start,
I'm ready to start.
and someone's sort of stopping the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did it create a trust issue going back? Maybe a little bit in the
Yeah.
beginning, but knowing my health history with my family and everything,
Yeah.
I knew that I needed to do something. And so funny thing happened was it was right on Route 10. It's Signature Fitness. There was a chiropractor there, Dr. Baruji, great guy. He was into jujitsu, and I was kind of telling them my story of what I was experiencing, what I'm going through. I just needed to find a way to, lose weight, get in shape, and get myself healthy.
Right.
And he said, you know what, he said, we're gonna actually do jujitsu at this boxing gym in Montville. He's like, it's gonna be like on a Saturday or something. He's like, why don't you come roll with us? And, it's gonna be in the back of the gym. They're gonna put mats there. And he's like, why don't you come try it out? You might like it.
Yeah.
So I said, oh my God. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I never forget going a couple days before, because I'm a planner. So
Yes.
I didn't want to just figure it out the day of. I wanted to go see where this gym was, how far it was from the house. I wanted to
Right.
make sure I was there on time. I didn't want to disappoint this guy either and be late.
Right.
I went there. I walked into the gym. And once I saw like the big ring, in the center, and my mentor was in the ring with someone boxing.
Yeah.
I knew, I was like, this is what I want to do.
Right.
And
And it's like an amazing, first of all, the boxing community and a gym like that is probably like an amazing community that embraced you and motivated you, and you made
100%.
friends, and it was a social atmosphere, and right, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of like a strange introduction to boxing, because like my mentor, when I first met him, I told him my story, and I walked into his office. I never forget. I mean, Big Lou.
Yes, of course.
Luis, that changed my life. I tell people he's like another dad to me.
Yeah.
He took me under his wing, and I never forget the first day though. He told me, he's like, I was a chubby kid, mind you. I was self-conscious.
Yeah.
Like I was so self-conscious about my body at that time. Like in the summer, I wouldn't take my shirt off.
Sure. I know that feeling. Yeah.
So he was like, lift up your shirt, and I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, lift up your shirt. Let me see. I said, no. He goes, and he's 6'6",
Yes.
almost 300 pounds.
And he's a
ex-pro
little gruff.
heavy-
He's gruff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's rough.
Yeah.
He's like this ex-pro heavyweight. I'm like, he's like, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. So I'm like, I'm not gonna argue with this guy. I'll kick my butt, So I said, all right. And then he comes over, he grabs like my belly fat.
Yeah.
He goes, I'll tell you what. He's like, you give me a shot. He's like, you fight for me, I'll get you into the best shape of your life. And I was like, all right. Where do I start? And from there, our journey started, and he changed my life. He was the first guy that sparked it for me.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I mean, it sparked it so much that you ended up boxing or teaching boxing, right?
Yeah. I was with him my first couple years. He got me into phenomenal shape. He brought in a lot of great experienced guys like in the ring, like ex-pros, pros, amateurs. And then from there, it started to trickle into like, this guy helped me so much, changed my life, got me into great shape to where like I wanted to help him back. And I started seeing that he was getting busy.
Yeah.
So he was like, hey, why don't you hold mitts for, this client and
Right.
that client, and started learning the ropes. And I started it was like my introduction into personal training without knowing I wanted to do this for a living.
Exactly.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Did you ever do amateur fights?
I did. I did one. It actually, before you do amateur fights that count, they have like these one night shows that you can go into. It doesn't count on your boxing record whether
Right.
you win or lose. I did one of those with Lou to kind of get me broken into it.
How'd you do?
I did well. I won,
Oh.
which was great.
My boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, it was a phenomenal experience. And I always still stayed in the ring, like sparred a lot, got a lot of ring time because I didn't want to get rusty.
Yeah.
I always wanted to learn by going in with different experienced guys. And then later on, I just, life happened as I got older with it and had to work a lot more.
Yep.
But my passion still for the sport stayed. And then I became more aware of my body physically. Like, I lost the weight, I became super lean, but now I wanted to learn more about strength and putting on muscle.
Yeah.
And so then I hired this coach, Chris Lentino. I don't know if you remember, he was at Whippany Athletic Club.
I'm
He
sure,
was
yeah.
a big guy when I was training.
They're
here.
all big guys
Yeah,
there.
so
Yeah.
he was kind of like my introduction into strength training,
Right.
and muscle building. And then he was the one that helped me get prepared for my first bodybuilding competition.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So that was kind of like my entryway into kind of like the bodybuilding world. But it was, both things really experiences showed me so much, and both coaches had huge impacts on my life.
Right.
To where I am today. Honestly, if it wasn't for having good coaches in my life, I don't think I would have been where I am today in my fitness journey.
Well, it just shows you, I think, number one, your motivation, your discipline, things like that, and how you can persevere through. I mean, it's not easy, to have a goal and reach it.
100%.
Yeah, and it's not easy, number one, to like just really follow through the complete path to get to the stage, I guess, to do a fitness. What was it?
It was a bodybuilding show. It was a men's physique show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I always put it this way, like a good coach,
Yeah.
even sometimes like you might not believe in yourself in those beginning stages because you're still trying to understand your body, what you're made of, right?
Yeah.
So a coach really helps you bring that best out of you and really gives you a lot of confidence.
Yes.
Till you build it on your own.
That's. I hope people are hearing that because it's so important as you start a fitness journey. And we're right after the new year, so as you're starting, maybe you have a New Year resolution to, change your lifestyle, or whatever. A coach is the most important person to help you take those steps into changing your behaviors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had these coaches for years, even when I was able to do it on my own, I still had them for years as a coach, as a mentor, like to still help me. Cause look, we all, what they say, coaches need coaches, right? So
That's true.
I'm grateful for them, and for how hard they pushed me.
Yeah.
And I thought, in those years, like the harder I pushed, the harder I went, whether it was in the boxing ring, in my boxing training, or my weightlifting journey, that like heart disease was going to be like further in the rearview mirror.
Sure,
for me.
you sort of think it's like you think you've probably beaten the hereditary part of it,
100%.
right? And
Yep.
you're like, I'm healthy, I'm eating healthy, I exercise, like I'm great.
I wouldn't eat fried foods. I mean, no fried foods. I was always on top of like eating like the super healthy fast. They would say like that, that would absorb like, the plaque in the arteries.
Yes, of
like,
course.
Like avocados, olive oil, all that good
All
stuff.
the healthy
right?
fats,
All
yeah.
the healthy fats,
Yeah.
and like I was always on top of my nutrition, made sure like kept up my blood work. My primary doctors, everyone would tell me like, hey, everything looks good. The LDL,
Yep.
which comes from heredity, was elevated, but no doctor ever really showed any concern.
Right.
I mean, even when I moved to Miami.
Because they were probably like, you're healthy, you're fit, you're doing
Yeah.
everything right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even when I moved to Miami, and, I was working, as a personal trainer out there at a gym that recruited me, I was maybe 15, 16-hour days on the gym floor, but I was still working out hard, eating healthy. And even then, like when I was getting blood work done with like, I didn't have a primary care out there, but we
Yeah.
had these nurse practitioners. Even the nurse practitioners like, oh, everything looks good. Cholesterol slightly elevated, but nothing to really worry about. You're healthy as a horse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where like, I was like, oh, I got this thing beat. I'm good to go.
Sure. Which is like, I mean, again, you're 42.
Mm-hmm.
So 42 is extremely young to even worry about any of that, right? So,
Yeah.
all right. So now you're a personal trainer. You're a
Yep.
group fitness trainer. You
Yep.
moved to Miami. You're working at the hot gym in Miami.
Yeah.
Everything's cruising. Everything's great,
Yeah.
right? You move back to New Jersey. You're still training, still doing all that, still
Yeah.
fit, everything, right?
Yeah,
you get married.
I get married. Actually, all this happened before I got married. So I was still doing a lot of high intensity training, like hybrid training
Sure.
in between, like, my strength training. And then I never had any symptoms or anything like that. I felt great. I felt like I was at the peak of my, fitness level. I
Yeah.
felt fantastic, out of the blue. I never forget it. I was coaching at Orange Theory at the time.
Okay.
It was on a Friday.
Okay.
April 22nd. I'll never forget the date. My mother calls me, and my brother had went to Florida for vacation, and she calls me, and she's screaming my brother's name, and the dogs in the background are going crazy. So I'm thinking like I'm saying my mother's name. She's not responding. She's just yelling my brother's name.
Right.
So I'm thinking like, oh, she probably just butt dialed me. She's excited. My brother's home. The dogs are going crazy. I hung up the phone.
Right.
So she calls me again. I'm literally out the door to go coach. And she says, your brother's gone. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, your brother passed away on vacation. She said he had a heart attack. So, and I'm in like utter shock at this point.
Sure. How old was your brother?
My brother was 48 years old.
Okay. Wow.
And, you know, he was pretty healthy too. Like he would run, he was a runner. My brother was
Right.
an avid runner. You know, he was also a vegetarian for 20 something years. So he
Wow.
wasn't like a big meat eater either.
Right.
You know, because sometimes you would hear people say like, oh, you know, if you're a meat eater,
Yeah.
you know, cholesterol increases a lot more and this and that. So,
Which, by the way, I think is a little bit of a myth, right? I mean, it depends
For
on the
sure.
cut of meat and all
look,
that stuff. I'm
you
just
can still have
like a
meat
side
in
note.
controlled portions. I
Yeah,
think like,
everything
you
in
can have
moderation.
meat, but
Yeah.
look, at the end of the day, when it's hereditary,
It's hereditary.
It's hereditary.
Sure.
Whether you eat, I mean, look, my brother, like 20 years went meatless and still had a heart attack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what really kind of sounded the alarm, right? Because then my wife, well, at that time she was my fiance,
Right.
Michelle, said, "You need to go get checked." I'm like, "Get checked?" I'm like, "Babe, I feel great."
Yep.
I was like, I would have had symptoms. There was this, like
Yeah.
anything. Like I run hard.
Yeah.
You know, I would work out hard. I was like, I have no chest pain, no arm pain. Like, you know, the symptoms that they
Yeah.
kind of tell you would get. She's like, I don't care. She's like, I want you to go get checked just to be safe. I was like, I'm not doing it. She goes, I'll tell you what. She's like, if you don't get checked, we don't get married. She's like, make a choice.
Smart girl.
So she's like, I don't want to be a widow.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, if you look at my blood results, like resting heart rate, blood results,
Yeah.
everything from before my heart surgery to
Yeah.
now after my heart surgery, it's all identical.
No, is it really?
Besides my LDL, that was
Yeah.
different. The only difference, everything's identical. You would feel that with all the blockages, and I'll get to that,
Yeah.
that I would have, that my heart would be working extra harder, right?
Sure.
Which I had no idea. So we end up going, the cardiologist like, hey, let's go. They put me on a treadmill. Everything
Yeah,
looked
like
great
a
on
stress test.
a stress test.
Yep.
The nurse was like, you're in such great shape. We're going to be here for a while. You know, your heart, it's going to take a while for it to get up to the heart rate we want it to. So I'm like, all right, this is nothing. This is easy peasy. So the stress test, you know, they get my heart rate up. The one thing I saw that they did different that no other doctor, like a primary doctor, never did before,
Yeah.
was when the stress test was done, they said everything looks great.
Okay.
They said we're gonna keep the strodes on you
Okay.
and have you sit for 5 minutes and see what your heart does in recovery.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And what they saw was there was an abnormality
As the rate was coming down.
as the rate was coming down. And so they said, listen, abnormality, sometimes it could be false positives.
Right.
But to be on the safe side, they said, let's get some extra tests done. Let's do a calcium score plus a CTE scan. Now, the CTE scan is where they put the liquid dye in your arm.
Yeah.
And you go through like a donut, like a CAT scan, like a donut-shaped
Yeah.
machine, so they can see your arteries, what it's doing live.
Right.
So with that, it's 2 tests they do in like 1 shot.
Okay.
My calcium score was so high, Heidi, they couldn't see the images of my arteries. It was 800. They said 800 usually on a calcium score at that time I was 39. For a 39-year-old male,
Yeah.
it's like that calcium score is like an 85-year-old would have that
Oh
calcium
my God.
score.
Is that like, you know, like how they have they say like the widowmaker?
Yeah, so I had one artery that was 100. So when they couldn't see my arteries, they needed to go in live with a catheter.
Oh my
They
God.
needed to see what was going on.
Right.
So they went in with a catheter, and they saw I had 100% full blockage, like completely blocked, and then I had 2 90% blockages, and one of the 90% blockages was my widowmaker.
Oh
so
my
if that would have
God.
closed
Yeah, you were done.
instantly before I hit the ground, I would have died.
That's insane. So the 4th artery that was clear?
Yeah. So essentially, how they look at it, like they didn't tell me this directly, but I did some extensive research.
Sure.
Like when my doctor saw that many blocks, he's like, I can't even stent you. He's like, even if I could stent you, he's
Yeah.
like, I don't trust it.
Yeah,
So
not when it's that blocked.
when it's that blocked.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can have a heart attack. It could be a month, 6 months, a year. We don't know. The time bomb's going to go off. You just don't know when.
Wow.
And so, like, I knew how bad it was when I was doing research. Like, look, we all have blockages, right, that form over time.
Right.
They won't stent you unless it's 70% or more
Okay.
restriction.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea, like
Yeah.
even if I was 50%, they'd be like, all right, we're just going to put you on meds
And off you go.
and off you go.
Right. Okay.
But I was that blocked.
Wow.
Where they were like, the heart surgeon came in and said, listen, with this kind of blockage, with how young you are, and your heart's very strong, like the heart muscle itself, like you had great habits, obviously you worked out, you're in great shape.
Right.
He's like, we want to prevent any heart attacks from happening. We want to get ahead of this. He's like, we want to do open heart surgery, a triple bypass. Actually, they didn't know how many.
I mean, that's like insane. You're 39 years old. Your brother just passes away. You feel like you're like in the peak shape of your life, and you are being told that you have a triple blocked three. I'm like, I can't even speak. 3 blocked arteries, and you need. And you
At
need
that
surgery.
time, they actually didn't know. They said 2 for sure, maybe 3, but
Yeah.
they like, we won't know unless we go in.
Oh my God.
And at that time, when you come out of a catheter exam that they did with me,
Yeah.
you're still under like some sort of sedation, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm like loopy a little bit still.
Yeah.
I can't believe I think there's all like one big bad dream.
Yeah.
Like when he said open heart surgery, I was like, am I getting punked right now? Like, is Ashton Kutcher hiding behind the curtain?
I mean,
couldn't
how
believe
scared were you?
I was scared. I was confused because I'm like, I really felt at that time my body had failed me.
Yeah.
Because, I put all these years where I was trying to be proactive about it, get ahead of it, do it holistically through like all food, like healthy foods and all that, and push myself to the extreme. And
Thinking that was going to help you.
That was going to help me.
Yeah.
And, I was just angry with myself. And how could I have been so naive? And
Right.
so I also put blame on my brother's passing on me at the same time, because maybe I said, as a fitness professional, at that time, hey, if I wasn't so naive with this, maybe I could have not only helped myself, but I could have maybe helped him as well.
That's a lot.
But you just don't know.
Right.
That's the thing. And the heart surgeon said this. He's like, I was like, if I have this many blockages, I was like, how come I never had any symptoms?
Yeah.
He said, because fit people don't get symptoms.
Right.
He goes, why do you think most heart attacks they say it's a silent killer?
Sure.
He goes, the people that do get symptoms are the people that are not, that don't have healthy habits like you do.
Right.
And so, and it's scary because you're giving the keys to someone else and saying, here.
Yeah.
I was terrified. But what helped me through it is obviously having my amazing wife, my great support system,
Sure.
my parents. And, all the way up to my surgery, Heidi, I swear I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified. And then, I think a lot of times what stops people from getting checked or from seeking help is because you do get scared. You're
Of course,
afraid
it's
of
fear.
it's a fear,
I think what people don't understand is that information is not, it's knowledge. It gives you, it's.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's information it's powerful.
Yes.
In a sense, because then, as scared as it is, I mean, I'm BRCA positive, right? I was terrified to find out that I was BRCA positive because cancer, and I have family history and stuff like that. But it made me empowered
Yeah.
to make decisions for myself and then have the information to pass on to my children.
100%.
Yeah.
And I never forget, I called you.
Yeah.
I called you, and I never forget because, my wife was a great support system, and so were you, because I called you. I was like, Heidi, I don't want to do that. I was trying to figure out a way where someone can say, hey, don't do this. And you were like, no, you're doing this surgery.
I think I used a lot of curse words
You
for
did
you.
use a lot of curse words, but
Yes.
we'll keep that off air between us.
I did. I said, you have to do it.
Yeah,
You got to do
and
it. Yeah.
Just having that kind of support system really helped me. And
Yeah.
so I never forget, I was sitting, they have to do another chest x-ray, before going into surgery.
Right.
And I just sat there, and what really gave me more confidence was you got to take yourself out of it. You got to get unselfish, because I think what fear creates, and it creates it for a lot of people, is you get selfish and you think about the worst case scenario where when I took myself out of it, I thought about my wife and I thought about my parents who just buried
Yeah.
a child. I don't want them to bury another child, you know? And so that helped me be more calm into going through with this surgery.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm grateful to be alive today so that I can create more awareness because, you know, even talking with my anesthesiologist, he said, Kaan, the cases are getting younger.
Yeah.
He's like, before it used to be like we used to see on our operating table like 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds and above. Now it's 40 years old and younger.
With hereditary.
Yeah, heart disease, yep.
Yep. That's crazy.
And no one's getting checked. That's
Yeah.
the problem. And, you know, I have a new primary doctor when I moved down the shore. And she was an emergency room doctor first.
Right.
She said, Kaan, I can't tell you how many young adults, athletes, chests I pumped that had heart attacks that were super fit.
That's wild.
Because they think because they're at the peak of their fitness level and they eat well and they have good healthy habits that they're okay.
Right.
But you don't know.
You don't know.
I tell people all the time, like, even if you get checked once a year, that's great. If the doctor tells you, like, hey, you're fine, so you're not perfect. Yeah. I mean, nowadays with heart disease, I mean, my surgery was 3 hours.
Right.
You know, that's just the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
right? Mine
and
was
3 hours, 3 hours is a long time, but it's not compared to what it probably used to be 20 years ago. It was probably 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my success rate was at 99% because I had healthy habits. It's worse waiting. Let's say if you did have a heart attack and then you live through that heart attack and you need surgery.
Well, then your heart is damaged already.
Your heart's damaged already, and the risk factors go
greater.
up higher, you know?
You know, it's interesting because as I'm getting a little bit older, I mean, though I think I'm young, but a little bit older, my cholesterol has creeped up, and that's just hereditary as well. I mean, I'm not in a bad place because I have healthy habits, and I've been very consistent for the past 30 years with my lifestyle. But because of you, I went and got a calcium score. Just because it's, you want, first of all, to have the baseline and then to keep getting checked. Because if my cholesterol does get higher, they want to know where I'm starting from.
Yeah. And, it's a piece of, actually going to a cardiologist and getting these tests done, I think it's a great peace of mind for yourself too, right?
Yeah.
Where, you have kids, you have kids you have to think about, you want to be able to hold your future grandkids, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people sometimes don't think of that. They think nothing's going to ever happen by having a healthy lifestyle. But sometimes, look, you could be as healthy as possible, but still getting checked by a cardiologist once a year, you're just being proactive. It's like, think about it as like going to a dentist and getting your teeth cleaned, right? You want your teeth to be around for a while, right?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
So, but I understand, like, with that comes, like, a lot of people are afraid, I think, because I think half are afraid, and I think the other half are just like, hey, well, I'm proactive, I'm healthy, I'm okay.
I'm fine.
I don't feel anything, my blood work is fine, but blood work does not track blockages.
Right.
I tell people all the time, unless you've seen images of your arteries being clear, how do you know you don't have blockages as we speak?
Yeah.
And how do you know what percentage of blockages you have? You don't know.
You don't know.
And you're pushing yourself. So think about this. If you're super healthy, right? Or I was pushing myself really hard and I had 3 blockages. I had 100% blockage and 2 90%, right? And I kept pushing myself, let's say on the tread or in these hybrid trainings, training that I was doing. Your heart, at some point, what happens is you could be as healthy and as strong as an ox.
Yeah.
But if your heart can't pump enough blood, that's why your heart goes into cardiac arrest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't think that.
No, and by you pushing your heart to an extreme, at some point it was gonna not.
It was gonna give me a heart attack. And the only reason why I got lucky was because my brother saved my life.
Sure.
But not everyone's gonna get that lucky.
No,
it could have been me.
But that's why I wanted you to sit here today, because I think what's amazing is you look at, for anyone that's listening, if you look at Kaan, you're like, he's the picture of health, right? I mean, you're the picture of health, but you are now able to educate your clients, your community, and it's an amazing thing because you looking at someone like you're like, no way, 42, sick shape, all of that. But at the end of the day, you went through it.
Yeah.
You have the scars to show.
Oh yeah, got plenty of those. Here's what I ask, and I'll ask your listeners, like, because I'm sure there's a lot of your listeners that, a lot of people are like, obviously holistically want to, a lot of people steer away from medicine. I totally understand that. There's been obviously in the past, there have been some doctors that have been bad with pushing medicine, right? And it gave
Yeah.
medicine and doctors somewhat a bad name. And so
Yeah.
that's why people are like, hey, I'd
It's
rather
like a
stay.
Band-Aid. It's like a Band-Aid,
right?
yeah.
And a lot of people are afraid to do medicine now, right? Because of like side effects and this and that. But I will say this, like, there's a lot of diseases you can tackle holistically.
Yep.
And I firmly believe that. I think holistically, with heart disease, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it won't get there in the future.
Yeah.
It's just not there yet, because if it was, heart disease wouldn't be the number one killer in the U.S. Because if we can, if heart disease can be cured holistically, why is that rate so high?
Right. Right.
If you're able to control it on your own, why are people still dying
Right.
young?
Like you can go on a statin, but that's not going to necessarily, it's going to bring your cholesterol down. Doesn't mean it's going to clear your arteries.
Well, listen, if it wasn't for statins, like, I'll say this. A lot of people, when I tell them to get checked, that have like hereditary heart disease,
Yeah.
they'll be like, I'll get different responses. They'll be like, oh, no, I'm fine.
Yeah,
I work out. Like, I eat well. And in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, yeah, because I didn't do all those things. And,
Right.
like when you're trying to help, it's like everyone that hasn't experienced this
Yeah.
thinks they know, right?
Sure.
And I'm trying to educate them and help them. Like, doesn't matter how healthy you eat.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how hard you push yourself.
Yeah.
This is something your body is just producing.
Yep.
And my LDL, the lowest I ever got it naturally without any statins, was maybe 120,
Right.
which is still high. They don't
Yeah.
want it in triple digits.
Yeah.
With the medicine I have now, it's down to 50.
Wow. I mean, that's major.
That's low.
Yeah.
Because that's going to prevent these blockages from building
Coming
back up
Yeah.
and me going through this again.
So, okay. So you go through the surgery,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you're on the other side.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Like
I feel-
mentally, physically?
Look, my first year, I'm still learning a lot about this new version of myself, my new body, right?
Yeah.
And I feel great. I'm grateful to be alive.
You
I
look
still
great.
do a lot of the things that I'm able to do. Some things I'm just learning. Like, sometimes I'm a little nervous because, look, when I pushed myself so hard before my surgery, I pushed myself knowing that, hey, like, I'm super healthy, nothing's wrong with me. So
Right.
now, like, after surgery, when I push myself, I still get nervous a little bit, with my heart, but the doctor's like, your heart's fine. It's like a new engine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
I'm sure it's I mean, I would think it's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
You
it's just-
know,
I think year
that
by
you have
year
to
now.
that you have to battle internally with.
Yeah, I think year by year I'm gaining more and more trust with it. But I will say this is like, ignoring getting checked and ignoring, going to see a doctor because you're afraid, you don't want to do medicine,
Yeah.
is just the wrong reason not to get checked. Because look, I'll give you like an example. Years ago, I said I try to defeat this holistically.
Yeah.
And, the statins I'm on now, the side effects are, you might feel fatigue. It might increase your liver enzymes, right? I've been on this medication now 2.5 years on 2 statins.
Yeah.
My liver enzymes are still fine. They do checkups every 6 months.
Right.
Okay. Now, years ago, I did this thing called red rice yeast. I don't know if you ever heard of it. So red rice yeast is like this natural supplement you can get over the counter at vitamin shops. It supposedly helps with cholesterol, hereditary cholesterol, right? My cholesterol numbers were going down, but the one thing in my blood work that the doctor noticed is like, hey, what do you take? Because I didn't tell my doctor I was taking it.
Yeah.
He's like, are you taking anything? I'm like, why? He's like, your liver enzymes are spiking.
And it's from the supplement?
Yep.
Wow.
So even if it's holistic, look, it may be great for one thing, but it may throw off another. And so that's one thing to also look out for, right?
Yes.
Where I've been on a statin, 2 different statins now, and my liver enzymes are totally fine. And so it doesn't mean the side effect that they say that's there that could possibly happen is gonna happen.
Right. I mean, I think it's such an that's like a whole other episode
Yeah.
about like supplements and stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
people think that they can, walk into a, vitamin store and find things and Google things
Yeah.
but nobody really knows, right? Nobody
No.
knows. They're not, they're not FDA approved. They're not whatever. But I think the best medicine is seeing your doctor,
Yeah,
right?
and let him-
Educating yourself like from your doctor and leading a healthy lifestyle.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a buddy of mine that saw my story, and he went to my cardiologist that I saw, and he had slightly elevated LDL levels.
Right.
But guess what the cardiologist said? Hey, we'll put you on a small dosage, very small dosage of a
Yeah.
statin, and he sent him on his way.
Yeah.
But he was proactive because he has 3 kids.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I think people, when they go see a card, they think of worst case scenario.
Sure. You get
and
scared.
I get
It's scary.
that.
Yeah.
But you got to think of like, your family. You got to think of your parents. You got to think of your kids. You got to, you got to take your kind of self out of it and just get checked.
I think anything with health, whether you're young, whether you're not young, I think we've seen family members go through things. You see friends go through things. And then when you have to go to that doctor or you have to really see what's going on the inside of you, it's scary because it just produces a lot of anxiety. And that's why people don't do it.
100%.
Yeah. How's your, did you find, I'm sure you had to build your strength back from ground zero.
Oh, 100%. Even though my ego wanted to go so fast in the beginning and get it all back in one shot, I knew that wasn't going to be the approach because I sat around for 8 weeks. I couldn't do anything. So I was eager to get back in the gym, but I knew with how sensitive my chest cavity was, I had to be very careful with it that first 6 months.
Right.
Till I could build strength again.
Right. Did you have to ramp yourself up with cardio?
Yep. I had to, I would get checked by a cardiologist every 6 months, and they would just tell me, like, hey, you can start ramping it up now. Like, they would kind of give me, I didn't even have to do, so when you come out of open heart surgery, you have to do cardiac rehab, which is you go to a rehab center, they put you on a treadmill. But the cardiologist left that to me. He's like, look, you're in great shape. You know what to do.
Right.
You could do it yourself.
Right.
So I said, all right.
Yeah. See you, doc.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So I ramped it up myself, and I feel great now.
Is your strength 100% back?
If I were to compare it to numbers before heart surgery, I'm close, but right now for me, my biggest goal is I would say my goal now is to just be healthy, be in this new body that I have now is to be healthy, strong, a version of myself,
injury-free
and injury-free, and just living a longer life. Because I think that's the biggest thing as I get older, is when we have kids eventually, hopefully, my wife and I just want to be around for my kids, be able to pick them up and run around with them, and hopefully I can inspire them into a healthy lifestyle like myself and my wife.
Yeah,
and that's my goal right now.
And now you have that information for when you have children. For just to keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again, it's knowledge is power, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What are your goals in regards to, your fitness, educating people? What would you say your goals are?
I mean, my goal is always to still keep trying to push the envelope to see, how far I could take this body, right? And how I can always improve it. How I can always improve my health constantly, you know? And for people just to really shine light on this because, again, heart disease, think about it, it's ahead of cancer, right? With heart disease, if you're more proactive with it and get ahead of it, those numbers can calm down.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I want to prevent as much people going through the pain that my family and other families have went through by spreading more awareness on this because the cases are younger.
Yeah.
It's not about being older anymore. It's about like younger athletes going through this, and, my mother,
Look at Bronny.
Yeah. LeBron James' son.
Yeah.
So I had my open heart surgery at Morristown Memorial Hospital, number one heart center in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So,
Jersey.
Yeah. So LeBron James's kid, so young, he had heart issues. Actually, they brought him to Morristown Memorial.
No way.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
They brought him here. Yeah.
Wow.
And I only know that because my anesthesiologist told me.
Oh,
I was like, I feel like
that's a fun fact. I mean, not fun, but a good fact.
A good fact.
Good fact.
I was like, yeah, man. I was like, my anesthesiologist worked on Bronny James.
And you look at him now; he's doing great.
Yeah.
So, if people want to educate themselves, and are there any foundations or anything that you would say, like
honestly,
the American Heart Association?
Yeah, American Heart Association. But honestly, like I would just go to your own cardiologist because they're going to educate you and tell you, like, with your they're going to look at your blood work. They're kind of going to do some tests.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's where I got most of my information and introduction. It was kind of a rough introduction.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
like I never had a surgery.
You went in hot.
I went in hot. I
yeah.
didn't have I never had a surgery in my life. Like I would go in for like a cavity filling, and that would scare the hell out of me. But yet, like my first.
For those who, Kaan talks a tough game. He's a little bit of a baby.
I'm a softie inside.
Yes, yeah.
I'm a teddy bear.
But I would say also ask your family. Ask your parents, ask your grandparents if they're still around, like their family history.
Yeah.
Are they on? Do they have heart disease? Sometimes we never ask those questions to our family members because it's not like dinner conversation.
No.
Yeah.
Look, real quick, my mom never got checked either. My mom was on meds, heart meds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She got checked, but like she gave it like a 5-6 year break. She never had symptoms, an old woman. My mom really didn't work out either.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? After I recovered, I took my mom to go get checked. And luckily we did.
Yeah.
Because guess what? She had 5 blocks. She needed a quintuple.
Whoa.
The doctor said she was 2 weeks away from having a heart attack.
How old was your mom when she
My
had
mom's
that?
75.
Wow.
Yep. She had a quintuple.
So look at that. Your brother saved you
And my mom.
And your mom. That's insane.
So that's why, like, I'd rather spread awareness on this, and thank you so much for allowing me to do that, because, I feel like there's so many lives that could be saved and a lot of tragedy that can be prevented by just being more proactive on this and just getting checked and not being naive and thinking you have it all under control.
Yeah, well, I think it's important, and I think, I know like a lot of the things I do are like food related, but I am a community girl through and through, and
Yeah.
I care about my community. So if there's anybody out there that's listening and hears what we're talking about and says, you know what, let me go check my cardiologist, then we did our job today.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if there's anybody, that has any questions, you could please, like, they can always reach out to.
So do you want to, like, how can people find you?
So, they can find me. My Instagram handle is KAANERPANUR, Kaan Erpanur. You can find me on Instagram. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions, because this is a lot, for some people to take in,
Sure.
So.
And if you want Kaan to, train you too, I wouldn't suggest it. It's not for the faint of heart, no pun intended.
Yeah, I still have old videos of Heidi Blum. Maybe we should put that on the next live, if of her cursing at me.
We should not.
It's good times. It was good times.
We should not. Kaan, I'm so happy that you sat with me today. I love you.
Thank you so much. I love you too.
And I'm so happy that you're here sitting with me.
Oh, me too.
For a lot of reasons.
I'm very grateful.
And I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Because it's not an easy journey, and you went through it, and I'm so glad you're on the other side of it.
Thank you. And that's one of the things if I got a second chance, I wanted to make it count. And so I wanted to impact as many lives as I can. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
You're a good boy. You're a very good boy. And so that's it. So, Kaan, thank you so much. And I hope
absolutely.
everyone out there for American Heart Month listens to this, and hopefully it educated them, and maybe we saved a life or two today.
Absolutely. Even if you save one, it's worth it.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Kaan.
No, thank you, Heidi.
If you are hearing this message, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I'm truly grateful for you and this opportunity. The purpose of the Behind the Counter podcast is to bring food, people, and community together. I hope you'll return for more episodes and explore with me. I want to personally thank Fran Linnell of Design 68 for my amazing Behind the Counter podcast logo, and Travis Lohenberg for my awesome Behind the Counter music, and all the guests that take their time to sit and talk with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you hear your podcasts. If you'd like to support the Behind the Counter podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends and family, and you can follow me on Instagram at Heidi Blum. If you have any feedback or stories that you want to share, you can email me at foodsarbtc@gmail.com.